Welcome into the lounge presented by DraftKings. We have the pleasure of sitting down with Michael Pierce. Mike, we'll start here. We have a new intern in our department, right? Her name's Haley. Mm-hmm. And we were watching practice the other day, and, she's new. She, hasn't been around NFL players, right? She looks out there, and she points to you, she goes, "That dude is huge." She was like, "That guy." It was like her welcome to the NFL moment. Do you get that in general? When you're just walking around in life, do a lot of people that? Your thighs are bigger than my waist, Mike. Do you get that a lot?
Yeah, man. I normally forget how big I am just because, like I said, I'm 6 foot and, our next tallest D-lineman may be 6'2" or 6'3".
Right.
And we had Calais last year and I'm around Herb all the time and Travis 6'5". So when I go out in public, they're like, "Oh, my God." And I'm looking like they must be looking at someone else. But, like I said, the girth, it helps me get the job done. But, no, definitely when I'm in public, I am reminded.
Right.
Here, not so much.
Well, last time you sat down with us was you were fresh off inking your contract a year ago. And, lots changed. You've gotten married. We were sitting down. Your fiance was with us last time. So, been married, had your honeymoon. Can you tell listeners a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, we got married March 18th. Took a trip to Dubai. That was my go-to right before COVID. COVID shut that down, obviously. So, next time I got the country, I said I was going to Dubai. So, we had a blast, man. She kind of gave me free reign to plan everything out. So, my wife loves the beach. So, incorporated the beach, went to Abu Dhabi, and then I had my fun. I got on a helicopter, got on the boat, rode in some nice cars that you probably wouldn't want to own. You know what I mean?
Wouldn't want to own. I take a nice car.
I was saying, until you get the bill.
So the payment.
Okay,
you probably wouldn't want to own.
comes.
So, I got to ride around the back of a Rolls Royce, which was cool for me and all that kind of crap. But, man, we just had a good time enjoying each other and just seeing all those different sights.
Yeah. Well, you're a world traveler. That's one thing I like about Mike. I can always have a good conversation with him about traveling the world. So life is good. I want to talk a little football. You had to kind of cut your world travels short a little bit this year. You didn't have to, but you opted to. You're here at the voluntary OTAs here at football school, all that stuff, putting that work in. What led you to want to do that?
I just had a rough 2 years. So I had 2 years, 2 seasons consecutively cut short by injury.
Right.
So, like I said, it's the 10,000 hour rule. If you miss out on so many things, you can get rusty. And, like I said, for me, it's just about resetting myself, being around the team, being around the guys, not having Calais here also played a part in that. Just it's my turn to step up and be a leader vocally and also, bring those young guys along. So it's been a joy, man. I haven't been to OTA since, I guess, right before COVID. Right. So, no, man, I'm enjoying myself, just working with the guys, hanging with the guys, eating lunch and all that good stuff. So, it's been a blast, man. Like I said, I finished up rehab, but just want to be around the team. Get myself back and ready to roll. So once we hit camp, once we hit the season, I'm nice and ready to go.
Cool. I was going to ask you about that. Calais being gone and you being now a vet in the room. How is that process going? And how does Michael Pierce go about being a leader? Because you seem great guy, but kind of not the thunder voice that Calais has and not the loudest guy coming out on the practice field. How is Michael Pierce going to go about being a leader for this group of guys?
For me, it's just about, practicing what I preach. So practicing hard every day, making sure I'm on my assignments, making sure that, like I said, for me, I deem myself responsible for Travis. We brought in Kai. Just making sure not only that my technique is on point, but helping them along. We got some other great vets like Herb who does a great job. But for me, it's just about working hard every day, letting people see my work ethic. Unfortunately, I'm not as, dancing inclined as Brandon, nor do I have the voice of Calais. But in my own way, I'm trying to get it done, and I think the guys are responding, and I think Coach Weavis should be pleased with how I'm handling things. So.
Nice. Well, you mentioned obviously the injuries. That's been, unfortunately part of the story the past couple of years. Last year you came out you were looking really good in training camp. Week 3, biceps injury. Just how tough was that to handle given all that you've gone through? You had the opt-out year because of COVID, and then it was elbow?
So my tricep, yeah.
Tricep, okay, with the Vikings, and then to come here and have the biceps injury. Just how difficult was that for you to handle?
Man, it was rough, man. Like I said, thankfully, I had my dog and my fiance at home. But, those first couple of weeks just it didn't really hit me. You know, I had surgery, but you for a week or two you're on pain pills. You just wake up, go to sleep, wake up, go to sleep.
Yeah.
And no, man, it was rough mentally. Just to realize, like, all right, I worked so hard to get to this point, and like I said, for the past 2 years, I started off really hot, been playing at one of the best in the league, and then, some freak happened. So, like I said, for me, it was just trying to put that behind me. No self-pity parties and all that stuff. After those 2 weeks, my fiance was like, all right, you gotta get it done. You gotta get back to work. So started with rehab, knocked all that stuff out. I got cleared pretty quickly, and I'm back at it. So right now it's just a renewed sense of joy, just seeing that like I told those guys, I think I shared a text with them after I got hurt. Each and every Sunday is really precious. And until you have those injuries, until you miss time and, have to watch football for 12 weeks, 16 weeks on TV, you don't really know how that feels. So that's another reason why I'm here. I'm just enjoying playing football, enjoying being healthy, and just making sure my body is ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned injury sucked, but you look great. And obviously the last 2 years you haven't been beaten up as much as the average defensive lineman. Is there any part of you that feels like, hey, I've got a lot left in the tank because I'm healthy now, my body's fresh, and even though, the birth certificate may say 30, I'm a fresh guy ready to roll?
Yeah, man. I think everybody feels that way around this time of the year. But no, I definitely missed out on a lot of the poundings, a lot of the achy stuff that, tends to happen towards the end of the season I haven't had to deal with. For me, it's just about just finishing. So I'm not really worried about, anything other than me completing that goal is finishing all 16, 17 games, playoffs, all that kind of stuff. So, like I said, I don't really worry about my age. It's just about enjoying every day and handling my business. Like I said, I've seen a lot of great vets. I think Calais was, 35 when he was here?
Yeah.
And that joy he had every day, he was like a big kid. So Brandon the same, and so is T-Sizzle. So I'm starting to see that now. Like I said, guys are coming in, they 21, 22, and we're in 2 different phases of life. But that's also a good thing. You get to mentor guys and everything. So, like I said, as long as I have fun and, like I said, I'm enjoying myself and I can stay healthy, I won't worry about the age on the birth certificate.
It is interesting, the point that you made earlier, your feeling about when you lose reps, do you kind of lose something, you know what I mean? Like, or that rust factor. I guess, can you expound upon that? Like your feeling of having not played a ton of football recently, how that impacts you going into this year?
Yeah. So I would be remiss, I would be lying if you say doubt doesn't creep in. So, you see things differently. When you do something for so long, it's like second nature.
Yeah.
And then when you miss 30 games,
right?
Things, you're like, dang, can I really do this? You see guys play the position, you're like, dang, I should be able to do that. And then, before you can actually put your feet back on the field and get back healthy, you're like, I don't know if I'm like I used to be. So for me, it's good to be out here in OTAs. We can't go full speed and stuff.
Right.
But just, putting myself in those movements and being efficient and playing really well throughout these OTAs is very, very important for me. So, you had that doubt for sure, especially like those off seasons in January. You watching people play in the Super Bowl, and then, right before OTAs, you're like, oh man, I got to start from ground zero. Thankfully, that wasn't the case for me. I hit the ground running, but that's just a testament to me working in the off season and all that stuff. But yeah, you definitely had those times where you're like, man, I need to see myself do this before I can really feel comfortable again.
It sounds like this season for you isn't about proving anything to anybody else. It's about proving it to yourself that you can stay healthy, you can be on the field, and you can be that guy, the juggernaut, that we've all seen before.
Yes, sir, definitely.
Yeah.
Like I said, knowing my story and coming from undrafted and just seeing that, I never would have assumed I'd make it to year 8. Just in my wildest dreams. So just being grateful for that, not alone, and not wasting this opportunity to be a leader, to lead the D-line, to play well and all that stuff is really, really important to me this year. So,
yeah, I think a lot of people forget, your background, just being undrafted, because you've been really kind of like a stellar guy since you started here. But do you remember any point your first season or when you first got here, you were like, man, I can play with these guys, like, do you remember, any practice, any game, like any moments that happened? You're like, you know what? I can do this?
Yeah, I'd say my first preseason game. Listen, I don't make a lot of sacks, but I remember like 1.5. And oddly enough, Brandon's wife, Alyssa, had a baby the day of our first preseason game. So I think they moved Carl Davis to start. Because I'm sure you don't want to throw an undrafted rookie out there in the first preseason game. So I think they moved Carl. Carl ended up rolling his ankle, and I ended up going out there like I think the second or third series and just playing really well. And like I said, it's kind of like one of those deer in the headlights moments. It's like it's sink or swim. So I went from Coach Cullen like yelling at me every day and playing 5 to 10 plays every practice to, all right, this guy has something. Let's see what he does next week. And by the time we got to the 4th preseason game, it was on and popping. So,
everybody remembers that play. The 4th preseason game was the sack, fumble, recovery, touchdown.
Yeah,
I mean for a big man, that's the trifecta right there.
No, if I can get one of those this season, God, just look out for me. But no, man, that's when I really said, okay, I started to gain some confidence, and that's the thing I'm tell Travis and every young guy we have that comes through here. Once you get your confidence and you know who you are and you know what you need to do in this defense, things start to flow a lot smoother. Right. So, that's kind of how it happened.
Well, you mentioned the loss of Calais, obviously, in free agency, and those are literal big shoes to fill. Different position than you play. But what is your take on that? And I guess Mike McDonald, said, quote, on the podium, he said, having Mike back in the middle of the defense will definitely be a big point of contention for us moving forward. I'm excited to see what he does, right? So your coach is saying that'll be a difference maker for us. How do you kind of approach filling his shoes in a way?
I don't think anybody ever feels the shoes of a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Production-wise, like I said, he got a good amount of sacks. I think he had 6 last year. For me, like I said, being a nose guard and my favorite nose guard being Kelly Gregg, it's just about being that tone setter. We've had great nose guard play. That's something I try to tell Travis and make him aware of, and that's just something that's a non-negotiable in this defense. So holding myself to that standard, knowing the guys who come before me is big for me. Like I said, I just enjoy my job. It's not the most flashy. I don't end up on Sports Center or anything like that. But
but you get some sacks. You got some pass rush too.
Yeah.
Don't sell yourself short now.
Nose guard is just a thankless job in general.
Right.
But like I said, the really good ones tend to enjoy it. So I enjoy bumping and knocking some guys down and putting some guys on their back. So no, man, it's just about living up to my standard. Obviously forwarding the brand of the Ravens football, just being physical and bringing guys along. But no, man, that's the person who I believe myself to be, a difference maker. I'm glad that coach thinks so as well, but it's just about putting that work in every day. Do
you guys on the defensive line talk about, not having Calais and that everybody collectively, we're all going to have to step up some of these young guys, like Travis Jones, Matabike, Broderick Washington, there's just going to be more on their plates,
Yeah. We don't really talk about it per se, but I think it's just felt. Yeah. Like I said, Matabike, 4th year, this is a huge year for him, as well as Brody. Brody's been balling. So, like I said, Travis did really, really well, especially before he got his knee. He was going to have a huge year. I really believe that. So, having him healthy is going to be awesome. But, I think it goes without saying. And like I said, our brand of football is synonymous with D-line who kicks some tails. So, whether Calais is here or not, Sizzle was here or not, you got to do your job and be accountable to our standard and our defense. So, like I said, we haven't really talked about it a lot, but it's understood.
Yeah, your first year with Mike as defensive coordinator got cut short. What do you see from him as defensive coordinator, his style, his approach, and how do you think any changes you might see in the way the Ravens are going to go about things this year or not with just Mike and having a year also as a defensive coordinator under his belt?
Yeah, like I said, I think it's kind of with players. The more confidence you get as time goes on throughout a season, seasons stack up, you get, those mental reps, those physical reps for him, calling plays in different situations. So I think he does an amazing job with the coverages. And like I said, I think a lot of our DBs are starting to really this year understand, and the communication is there. And like I said, those mental busts, like if we had a few against the Dolphins, those things don't happen when you had those certain reps. So, we had a lot of young guys in there when we had those things happen. And then you see the growth that Kyle Hamilton had. You see Jalen Armour-Davis grow tremendously. So, like I said, the back end is coming together very well. And like I said, we still blitz a lot. We still get after people. So I think he'll obviously improve as a coordinator, but ultimately it's the players who play the game. And, once he gets those calls into PQ or Roquan's ear, everything can flow. So.
You mentioned Madubuike and Brody and Travis. Can you give us a little snapshot on each of those guys of what stands out to you about their games?
Okay. We'll start with Travis.
Okay.
He's probably the second strongest person I've seen. One being Linval Joseph.
Wow, okay.
That dude is – I almost tore my pec working out with Linval. But no, Travis is just very, very big kid, broad shoulders, then lift the house. So, I think he kind of reminds me of Brandon in a way.
Okay.
Very, very strong. He can run through anything, but he's also pretty agile. Yeah. So, I love Travis's game. Madubuike is just a physical specimen. I know I've heard people talk about that on countless of podcasts with you guys. I think Justin Houston was the last person I heard talk about him. But, he's just a freak athlete, man.
Just kind of like twitchy for a big guy, kind of.
Yeah, we don't normally have those kind of guys. I think the last time we had one was like Timmy Jernigan.
Yeah.
And he's really explosive here. So, he's in that AD Timmy Jernigan mold. Very, very fast, very explosive, strong. Like he said, if you ever see him just walk around, you can understand kind of where I'm coming from with that. But, now, Brody is awesome, man. He is very much so a technician. Strong as well, but like I said, you'd be hard-pressed to find anybody that works harder than Brody.
Interesting.
Period.
All right, one other guy on the other side of the ball that you go against, Tyler Linderbaum. Just what were your impressions of him going up against him in practice his rookie season and now, a little bit at the start of OTAs here? Yeah,
no, he's grown a lot, man. I think I hit him with a hump move, on first couple plays of OTAs, and everybody made a big deal out of it. And then, I would say, a week later, that crap didn't work anymore. So, he's a fast learner. And like I said, people made, I guess, a pre-draft or something made a big deal about him being, not the biggest guy.
Right.
That dude is scrappy, man, and he can just play. And I think they said the same thing. He, Iowa guy. Same thing about Marshall when he came out. I read an article about him. He was, quote-unquote, small, and he's gonna walk into the Hall of Fame, so don't want to put that on him. But no, he's a really, really good player. I think he's going to continue to grow just like everybody else, and we'll see where his career ends up. But no, he's a really, really great center for sure.
Yeah, since we're talking offense, as a defensive guy, what are your impressions? We're all talking about Lamar's back, OBJ, drafting Zay Flowers. Obviously, offense helps defense. What's your impression as a guy who's going to be watching these guys work on the sidelines, what having an offense, some of the weapons they brought in can do for the team and for the defense?
Yeah, no, I think that's something we haven't had here in a very long time. Just a plethora of guys who can do a lot of different things. So, JK is going to be in his contract year. That's always big year for running backs. We got Gus, who's a different change of pace kind of guy. Justice can do different things. Like I said, Odell is, synonymous. It's Odell Beckham. So one-handed catches and all those things, those underneath routes that he catches and can take to the house. And then Zay is, he's fast. So very fast. We're running reverses now and all this other stuff that I don't want to give out, obviously. But no, man, we throwing screens and all kind of stuff. And like I said, if somebody misses a tackle, that joint can go to the crib. And then we'll have Bait back. And like I said, he took a slant 80 yards last year. At home against the Dolphins.
Right.
Proches, man, we got a lot of weapons. So I'm eager to see all that come together. Like I said, camp will be interesting, and then we'll get to the season. But on paper, we got some horses, man.
Yeah. All right, last question for me, Mike. As a guy who dealt with the biceps injury last year, do you think I've suffered a lifetime worth of biceps injuries? These are underdeveloped for my whole life for some reason. Do you think I have an injury or something in your medical opinion?
My wife is a pharmacist, so I don't want to disrespect the medical field, but I think if you just go talk to Scott.
Okay, go down to the weight room.
I'll be here all summer if you want to come down.
Ooh.
For a gun show. It's all relative to your strength.
Okay.
So obviously you won't have to do what I do, but he can tone you up, man. my bicep looked like my forearm, and now I'm back normal. So they'll get it out of you if you want to put the work in.
All right, I'll start with the 25-pound curls. Let's go. All right, Mike, thanks a lot, man. I
my
appreciate
pleasure,
it.
brother.
Always
Thank
good
y'all
talking to
very
you,
much.
Mike, man.
Welcome back into the SeatGeek studio. Good to hear from Michael Pierce. Just a good dude. I always enjoy talking to Mike.
Definitely.
Yeah, for sure. He mentioned starting up the gun show for me. It's gonna be a BB gun. We're talking water pistol for me.
Everybody has their strengths, Brian. You know, man.
Yeah, and I have 0 of them.
Nah,
0 of the
man.
strengths.
Well,
Physical.
physical.
I appreciate that, Cliff.
Right.
Yeah.
You're messing with the wrong crowd there, man.
It's true. I was waiting for it. What was he going to come up with? See, this is the benefit of having you on the couch instead of Garrett. Garrett would use this as an opportunity to cut me down.
He would.
You build me up, Cliff.
I
This
do.
is the difference between you and Garrett.
It's true.
I appreciate it, my
I
friend.
do. Makes my day smoother, man.
Anyway, we want to remind listeners and viewers that this week, the DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the Baltimore Ravens, has a limited time offer you won't want to miss. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use code FLOCK. New customers can get a deposit bonus of up to $1,000 only at DraftKings Sportsbook with promo code FLOCK. Please play responsibly. For help, visit marylandgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER 21 plus to play. Anyway, really good from Mike. I thought particularly about, kind of introspective about, have I lost a step? Can I still play at that level? I mean, you think this is a guy who signed a 3-year, $27 million deal with the Vikings when he left Baltimore. I mean, was regarded as one of the top nose tackles in the NFL. And there's no reason to believe that he can't be that player again. He got off to a strong start with the Vikings. Well, he had the COVID year. His first year, he sat out, opted out because of COVID. And then the following year, he started really well before his injury and then was released, came back here. And, but it's interesting. In my eyes, no reason to believe he can't be that player. But in his eyes, it's kind of like until you do it, and it's been a while since I've done it, you don't really know.
Yeah, I think we often underestimate the mental aspect of injury.
Yeah.
Everybody knows you have to recover physically.
Yeah.
But these guys are going against people at the highest level.
Yeah.
So think about it. I mean, whether it's Michael Pierce or anyone, if you come back 90% of what you were, that's 10% you lost.
Yeah.
And you're going against a guy who is at the peak of his powers.
Right.
That makes a difference. So now, instead of being a dominant player, maybe you're a guy who's fighting for a starting spot.
Mm-hmm.
If you're fighting for a starting spot, now you're fighting for a roster spot.
Right.
So, and like you said,
It's
until
that-
you
it's
do
that
it,
narrow, right?
It's that narrow. We forget that, I think, sometimes because we know what this guy can do. We just expect when he's healthy, he's going to be the same guy.
Right.
It's not always that way.
Right. Very interesting. And the defensive line, just as a whole, is interesting to see how that kind of shapes up this year. It seems like, now the Ravens added a veteran to the defensive line, kind of, made a signing there, but really mostly it's going to be young players stepping up
Correct.
into bigger roles and more on their plate. I mean, what are your expectations for the D-line this year?
A lot of talent there. They're young, talented guys. It was
Yeah.
interesting to me how quickly Michael talked about taking the Calais Campbell leadership role. A lot of times I think we make more of it than it really is. But with a guy like Calais, who's not only a huge presence but still a heck of a player, the guys know that, hey, we've got to pick it up. But imagine, you got guys like Matt Abuike, Travis Jones. If they,
Roddy.
if they can all take a step up as young players, wow. And then you have a guy like Pierce being the glue.
Right.
It could really be interesting. So this is kind of a changing of the guard, no question.
Yep.
Up front, it is.
And there is Brent Urban. You don't want to lose focus or sight of that. They do have a veteran DN, big body guy. I mean, you talk about if you're just looking at them, who is closest to Calais Campbell would be Brent Urban. Is a really big guy, but and I think Mike McDonald's really going to shuffle the pieces around there because I don't know that Brent Urban's going to play the same number of snaps that Calais Campbell did. I don't expect that will be the case. So somebody's going to be kind of in that spot eating up a lot of those snaps that Calais once played. And Mike McDonald, when I asked him about this, even said, could they take an outside linebacker, put his hand in the dirt every once in a while, sometimes do that. They're going to be very multiple in their defensive line looks to kind of absorb that loss, I think.
Yeah, and health, obviously, we all know, always plays such a huge role. I mean,
Yep.
Michael Pierce was playing great until he got hurt. Travis Jones was, to me, dominant and sometimes in preseason.
Yep.
And then that knee injury, to me, kind of threw him off. Especially you see that a lot with the young players, I think. I think veterans generally handle injuries better than young players. It just seems to set them back a little bit
With
farther.
Linderbaum had to deal with that too. I mean,
Yes.
he missed a lot of time in
I thought
training
he
camp
did
last
well.
year. He did very well.
Yeah, I was a little worried when he got hurt because so much was expected of him.
Right, he was a week 1 starter.
I know. I thought he handled that very well.
Yeah.
But again, if this defensive line can stay healthy, it's going to be good.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so we have a few emails. This one comes from Will Saunders from Pittsburgh. Will, frequent emailer. Appreciate it, Will. He says he has 2 questions. Many Ravens jumped on social media after D-Hop, obviously DeAndre Hopkins, was released, wanting the Ravens to sign him. Lamar, J.K., a top 3 tight end, first-round offensive tackle, and center. That's a lot of talent. Why do Ravens fans want more? Why use the salary cap resources on another receiver? Do you believe it's the years of wideout injuries just because, or some other reason why people want to add Hopkins? That's the first question. We'll get to number 2 after that.
Well, I think anytime there's a big name guy, fans want him.
Well, it's also kind of crazy. I mean, I think that Ravens fans are so conditioned to, like, whenever a big receiver hits the market, it's like, we have to get this guy. We're so starved,
Right.
you know, and it's like odd to hear somebody be like, God, we don't need another receiver. It's so I think part of it is because, like, you know, the Ravens have been thin at that spot in recent years and have really been hungry for that kind of Pro Bowl big time guy that, like, we're conditioned. You know, it's like Pavlov's dog around here. D-Hop gets released, you start drooling, you know, bing, the bell rings. So I think that is part of it. And, you know, as much talent as there is, undeniably so, right? I mean, you do have guys coming back from injuries. Rashad Bateman's come back from the injury. OBJ's come back from the injury. Now, all indications are good.
Right.
You know, Rashad Bateman's on the field here at OTAs, not full speed, not full go, but doing a lot. Looks good. Mm-hmm. Certainly an indication that by week 1, he should be totally good to go. Mm-hmm. OBJ, we haven't seen him out here at OTAs yet, but, you know, from videos, whatever, you know, I mean, he was considering coming back last year to play, you know, so he's pretty far removed. He'll be very far removed from the Super Bowl injury by the time the season starts. So I think the health will be fine, but it is a question mark a little bit.
Right. I just feel it's the player and the position that fans, you know, as you said, they're conditioned to clamor for a guy that good, but I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think D-Hop ends up here.
Yeah.
I think that
I would agree with that.
Yeah, so assuming that doesn't happen and he's not here, yeah, I mean, I still like what the Ravens have. And I feel like, yeah, they've got plenty. There are other years where you're looking like, man, you know, they'll probably want to address this right away. Mm-hmm. If somebody like that came, like they'd be on the phone like
tomorrow,
right? It's no longer like that at all. And I am interested. I just want these guys again to stay healthy.
Yep.
Bateman has played well when he's been healthy, but he's had injuries the past 2 years. Duvernay was having his best season, got injured. OBJ, people always ask me, like, well, how much does he have left? The last time I saw him play, he had a lot left, like in that Super Bowl. He looked just fine to me.
Right.
So if he just gets back to that, let alone some of the years he had in New York, if he just gets it back to what he was with the Rams, he's going to help us a lot.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, can these guys just stay healthy? If that's the case, we don't need DeAndre Hopkins. Now, again, he's a great player.
Right. That's kind of like the thing for me is like, I'm like, D-Hop's D-Hop.
He is.
And, you know, now there's all these reports of like, oh, can he still separate as much as he used to? Oh, dude looked pretty darn good to me, to my eye.
After missing the first part of the season.
Right. So, like, part of you is kind of like, man, if they had DeAndre Hopkins, how do you stop the offense? Like, unstoppable. Like, size him up. You know, so like, you know, like that's kind of like what part of me is like, but there's a lot more to winning a Super Bowl, to getting sized up, than having like it's all resource allocation, right? It's then having like this insane wide receiver room. That's not the only component, right? So like to me, adding a veteran pass rusher is higher on my priority list right now than adding another wide receiver, even if it's D-Hop. Is it a safety? Do you add a cornerback, getting a little bit deeper at corner? Those to me are higher priorities. But if those don't work out, right? Justin Houston sign somewhere else, whatever. Right. And you have resources, and D-Hop's still out there, and you got money to spend. All right, what's the price? I'm just not gonna
hang up.
No, I'm not gonna turn my back on the potential of adding a player like that. Certainly not. Even though we have already upgraded a lot of wide receiver.
Yeah. No, I mean, again, it's interesting because part of it too. Apparently, reportedly, he was on their radar before OBJ.
Right.
And everyone knew that he was not going to be in Arizona this year.
Yeah.
Now that they've released him, the question is, where is he going?
Right. Yep. So it kind of addresses Will's second question. He says, do you believe the next addition will be a safety like Adrian Amos or such as Adrian Amos, defensive lineman, Matty Ioannidis, or a pass rusher, Frank Clark, Arden Key, Justin Houston? These are the vets that might want until after mandatory minicamp to sign. Where do you place the betting odds? He says, what's the next addition, basically?
My greatest odds would be with the pass rusher.
Yeah.
Particularly since Justin Houston is one of the guys sitting out there.
Yeah.
I definitely think that could still happen. If not pass rusher, I kind of feel like the Ravens might just wait until, further along training camp. And if something happens, as unfortunately, it often does at a position, then attack there. I mean,
That pass rusher, you're saying?
Yeah, or another position if somebody gets hurt or something.
Well, do you remember last year there was two healthy outside linebackers on the roster during early part of training camp? It was crazy.
I know. I mean, yeah.
So they've been patient before.
Patient, yeah. They all, it's not week one yet.
Right.
And I do like the fact that when you look at their roster, you don't see these glaring holes.
Yeah, no.
I mean, that's where you want to be.
And I really like what I'm seeing from David Ajabo on the field. Also, Dafe Owe. I think those two guys, they've been working out together this offseason. I think it's real. I think it could be real that those two really have, I'm not going to sit here and make wild, predictions, but I think they could have strong seasons together.
Yeah, I mean, both those guys obviously have a lot of talent. I loved Ajabo in college. I loved him at Michigan before I even knew he was going to be a Raven. I loved him, and then never thought that he would be playing in Baltimore for Mike McDonald.
Right.
So I loved him in college, playing for the same guy.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to believe that now this isn't going to work out in Baltimore. It's the same two guys.
Right, exactly. All right, another email here comes from Jessie F. from Canada. She says, listen to every episode of The Lounge every week, and when Ryan mentioned Roquan, I don't know how you missed the opportunity to call him Zero Quan.
Oh, clever.
Okay, all right, there's something there. Love the show, guys. Hope the families are healthy and can't wait for the season. Thank you, Jesse. Appreciate the email. This one comes from James from York, England. So we're getting
going international.
International.
Yeah.
I love our international listeners to the lounge. Love them. James says, longtime listener and a big fan, both of the lounge and of the Ravens from the UK. First time emailing the show, though.
Excellent.
Thank you, James. Yeah. Says, first of all, it's always cool to hear Lamar call Garrett G during a press conference. Mm-hmm. But what's his nickname for Ryan? He says, feels like some one-sided love from number 8 for your double act.
He stirring up trouble here. From abroad.
Shots fired from across the pond.
Right.
Lamar usually just calls me Ryan.
Okay.
He calls a lot of people Mist or something. I don't think he calls me Mink, which is very odd because everybody calls me Mink.
Right.
I think he just goes Ryan.
Right.
Throws me off.
You're too young for Mr. Ryan, which is a compliment.
Yep.
Mink, I don't know why. I would think that, if you asked me what Lamar would call you if I didn't know, I would say Mink. So, Ryan.
Yeah.
That's a question for Lamar.
That's a question for Lamar.
Why do you call me Ryan? Even though that's your name.
What's up with that?
He'll be like, What?
Exactly.
Right.
Anyway, we'll have to look into this, James. He says, second, I'm so excited to see the Ravens again in London, even though the 2017 game was soul-destroying. It was awesome to be there and to see Joe Sizzle, Weddle, Jimmy Smith, and other great Ravens in person. And his question is, do you guys think the new offense will travel well this year, with Monken giving more verbiage to the offense through audibles and hot routes? We have some crucial road games this year: Chargers, 49ers on Christmas Day, Jags at crunch time, and obviously all three divisional opponents. Hopefully the offense can do well in those hostile environments. I think that's a good question.
I do too.
Yeah.
I mean, that is one of the challenges for this offense. I mean, people love, generally speaking, I think fans love, to see all the motion before the snap, obviously audible, changing things at the line of scrimmage. It's great when it works, but it is more challenging on the road.
Yep.
But I do feel that that's another reason why playing with pace is going to be important. If Lamar has a lot of time at the line of scrimmage, he's up there. The more time he has to make plays, change plays, the less likely there'll be mistakes.
Right.
Playing with pace, I always feel, is better for an offense anyway, but it is going to be interesting. That's why, I know the coaching staff and everyone is glad that so many players are here now, because on the offensive side of the ball, it's going to be different. There'll be some growing pains, no question. Then you get in a situation where, okay, you do all this stuff in training camp, then the starters really don't play in the preseason, and then week one, you've got to be on point.
Right.
So it's a challenge, but I love Linderbaum as a center, getting the line together. Lamar, to me, is good pre-snap when he has time.
Yeah.
When you're rushed, it gets a little more challenging. It's something to watch. It's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Todd Monken's done this for a long time, so he knows how to design an offense that can go on the road, right? And all the silent counts and all that kind of
They get some fans at SEC games.
Exactly. So, he's dealt with this before. It does make me wonder whether the Ravens will practice with more crowd noise. We see that every year. They do that a lot.
Right.
Does Marlon turn up the volume a little bit this year? Right. Do they do more practice with a little bit more with more communication at the line of scrimmage? Do they practice with noise even more often than usual? I think that'll be interesting. So, anyway, thank you for listening. Thank you for stepping in for Garrett and being such a positive ray of light, as always. And if you haven't done so, make sure that you check out Ravens Wired. So we just released a it's like 30 minutes long, full-length video diving deep inside the Ravens rookie minicamp. If you haven't watched that already on YouTube, make sure you go back and do so. Just some really interesting insights. I mean, kind of a profile on each of the players, each of the draft picks. Heard from Andrew Voorhees for really the first time about his knee injury and what that was like at the combine. That was kind of a crazy story. Heard Greg Lewis, new wide receivers coach, mic'd up, and you kind of get a sneak peek into how he works and what he's like working with some of these wide receivers, including, of course, first-round pick Zay Flowers. So really interesting stuff in there. It's always cool to see the curtain kind of pulled back. So make sure you check that out. Make sure you're also subscribed and leave a rating and review for not only the Lounge, but also for the Ravens Press Pass podcast. We'll have OTA availability this week, coming on Thursday. And we'll have it, of course, next week as well as the OTAs continue. We're in week 2 of Ravens OTAs. Cliff will be back later. I'll be out the rest of this week. Cliff will be here with Cassie Calvert to break down their OTA practice takeaways, so you won't want to miss that. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back with you later this week.